So I'm going to throw it back to Ryan to just give some information and a couple examples about some of these concepts as they've been applied with some of our clients, and some of the success that we've had as a result. So there you go, Ryan.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate what you've said so far. This list, as you can see, disclaimer, right? It's not meant to be entirely exhaustive, but just within the last several months, and in looking at us, really maturing and building our Anglepoint service offering, I put here 4 different areas where we've seen a lot of growth and a lot of room in terms of where our customers were and where they came to, or where they are and where they're going, really. So the first one here, we don't have time to dive super deep into each, but with respect to the negotiating favorable terms and conditions, just taking the first example, and I know I don't want to be too publisher specific here, because these are wins and successes that we see broadly across a whole host of SaaS publishers. But Salesforce is a big one, right? Chris Hayes alluded to that there is Salesforce purchasing can be going all throughout the business without it known from one business unit to another. And as we see, especially as we kind of move from the mid-size to the larger tier of Salesforce customer, where they have a Salesforce enterprise licensing agreement in place, license transfers allow a company to transfer their Salesforce licenses from one org or instance to another, where the org that is providing the licenses has the surplus, and the org receiving the licenses has a need for them. It's a way to right-size the expensive investment made while a customer is mid-agreement without having to purchase net new licenses. And, just something as simple, and I should say simple, but it's really, not necessarily simple, but ensuring that those kinds of terms and conditions are negotiated into a contract is important, while ensuring also that any strategically important product to the business has that license transfer right granted or assigned to it. I really truly believe that the SAM or ITAM function within the business brings those cross-functional stakeholders into play in order to be able to execute those types of transfers, right? We've seen millions of dollars of cost avoidance realized by our customers because they've been wise stewards of the Salesforce estate, and they've had that visibility, which brings me to the point of visibility. Really to no fault of any one person, time and time again, when we've been brought in to assist in a publisher specific SaaS licensing exercise, or perhaps a licensing needs assessment, we see that the organizational silos that exist in managing the specific publisher's licenses, from what was brought in to what's in use, little really is known. Having that SAM function bring together those various roles, as we've already mentioned about what some of those roles are, and begin the conversations around usage are so valuable. In my opinion, I just want to give allude to a couple of the questions that could be asked, but really, in my opinion, it's a lot of the simple questions, right? Maybe it's a loaded answer, but the question to ask is relatively simple. It could be that, hey, is your business unit or team using this application? And if so, how are you managing it, if at all? It could be, how long have you been using it? What are your plans for future use? Where and how do you procure it? Or how do you provision the software to end users? Just beginning to prime the pump by asking those kinds of questions is really important. In my opinion, asking questions at all is way more important than asking the right questions. That as the conversations begin to develop and the information's brought to light, we'll break down those barriers and help the enterprise on an enterprise-wide level have the visibility. Going then now to the bottom left of maintaining trustworthy data. Well, we've already talked about data trustworthiness as being huge and incredibly important to SaaS management. We see I'm just going to give a call out to that SAM or ITAM function, but really we do see that SAM or ITAM function as the translator or the interpreter of so much of the data that is in the various SaaS portals or the consoles or the administrative dashboards. So supporting the functions of managing those user accounts of the levers, for example, as Chris Hayes called out, is of particular importance. Beyond just we want to make sure that the customer, you as a SaaS customer are not overpaying for something, as well as mitigating any potential security risks by making sure that systems access has been removed for those who have since left the company. We also see from just the idea of optimizing spend, putting the dollars where they're actually needed, or perhaps in many cases, actually decreasing your contract value or amount, harnessing the power of looking at the data beyond just which users have been provisioned to a certain type of license. Where do those users sit? Are there tax considerations that could bring your organization's overall tax burden down? Do we know not only which users have logged in, but what features they've used or what applications they're accessing? We do see that with respect to the maturity of reporting that Chris Hayes had kind of talked about, whether it be a native reporting capability or whether it be from some third party or a tool, it really is very different depending on the specific SaaS publisher. But having, especially for those exceptionally strategic or SaaS publishers where your spend volume is high or it's incredibly important to the business, diving deeper and figuring out what data is available and how can we get that data is incredibly important. We see that oftentimes for SaaS kind of consumption data, it's incredibly feature rich oftentimes, which can provide you as a person that's invested in managing the software estate wisely in your organization, the respective insights that you can then take back to the teams and say, hey, let's put licenses in this place instead of this place, or let's give this team a specific feature. We can give them that feature without purchasing anything net new, right? Again, just a couple smattering of examples of the conversations that could be had by really diving deep into what kind of data is available from a reporting layer. So, all in all, there's incredible room for opportunity. There's incredible room to optimize, to have that negotiating power for the customer when you're at the negotiating table with the SaaS publisher, and having consistent, uniform, repeatable data over time. Really key here.